Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name's Sam and I'm the Marketing Manager at Open Reality. I'll be hosting the session today. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd just like to remind you that you'll be in listen-only mode. If you do have a question, please use the Q&A pane on the left-hand side. We'll do our best to answer it as we go along. We are recording the session today. I'll send a link to the recording following the webinar as well. So let me introduce you to Richard. Richard Granger is the UK and Ireland Channel Manager at Arista Networks. He's got over 20 years experience in the industry with previous roles at Cisco and HPE. So he's been around, he knows a lot about a lot of things. And today Richard's going to be talking about Arista Networks, Cognitive Campus, and how their solutions really helping organizations pivot post-pandemic. So over to you, Richard.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam. Yeah. Hi, guys. Welcome. I'm going to get straight to it. Thanks for the introduction, Sam. So Arista Networks, we are classically or historically very good at talking about sort of individual things, nuts, bolts, widgets, speeds or feeds that we're really good at. And do you know what? A lot of our customers and partners really, really buy into Arista on that basis. But actually, one of the common things that I get asked is kind of what's the overriding sort of reason, the why Arista versus our competition. And he kind of looked at that and thought, well, actually, if we take all of those individual sort of nuts and bolts and speeds and feeds and those little things that people love about us, in their worlds and in their in their environments, and we bring them all together. What's the overriding theme? What is it that they all achieve ultimately for our customers? And ultimately, it comes down to what I call a drastic reduction or a material reduction in total cost of ownership. And I can kind of picture faces and things of people going, another total cost of ownership message. He'll be talking about ROI next. But actually, what I'll do in a moment in far more straightforward language is explain exactly how we go about delivering that better cost of ownership versus our competitors. But just to set the scene, what are the three kind of core tenets or the three core beliefs, foundations, if you will, of Arista Networks? Our beliefs, if you like, about what we do that ultimately delivers that reduction in total cost of ownership. One is that we have our EOS or extensible operating system for everything that we do. So one operating system, one single binary Linux-based operating system, whether it's a data center switch, a PoE switch on the campus, or whether it's a switch that's actually being a router, whether it's a tap aggregation device or whatever it may be, a chassis, a campus, or whatever. It just requires the relevant drivers for the box involved. But ultimately, one single binary operating system that's highly robust and highly scalable as a result of our ability to focus on one operating system, not many versions, not a blue one and a pink one, not a cloud one and a prem one operating system. And we have the Cloud Vision Management Platform as well, which is our single, dare I say it, and I'm sure you've heard it many times before, our single pane of glass management platform. It's the last time I promise I'll use that term, but it's one platform for managing, orchestrating, configuration, remediation, orchestration, and actually quite a lot of automation out of the box as a sort of turnkey software-defined stroke programmable platform as well. So no swivel chair management for all those different features and functions and campus and data center and all these sorts of things. And a fundamental belief at our core that merchant silicon chipsets are the best hardware on which to build our software value. Why do we believe that? Because it's all that these people do. The merchant silicon providers bring innovation to market far quicker, following Moore's law, bring that innovation to market far quicker and at a cost of manufacture that is drastically lower than any networking manufacturer can achieve on their own. So more innovation, more development, and at a more market friendly commercial model ultimately is why we believe merchant silicon is the right way to go from a hardware perspective. What does that all mean, actually, in more straightforward language? What do those things really deliver for you as our, as our customers? And I like to break it down into 4 key pillars and how they reduce that total cost of ownership. One is from a performance perspective. So Arista is in total about 12 years old, and in our current guise with the software and the hardware, about 10 years old. We IPO'd about 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and today we turn over between $2.5, $3 billion of revenue. We started out very focused around the low latency trading floors in the finance houses and on really trying to develop relationships with some of the emerging cloud providers, or the cloud titans, as we call them now. What that meant was we had to bring innovation and differentiation to market very quickly for them. We really had to win them over with something that was different. And what we brought was very low latency networks that were operating at the time, sort of 100 gig with deep packet buffers. Parking that for a moment, what does that mean? It's meant that we've really stolen a march on the market in terms of certain technologies like 100 gig connectivity. We're the number 1 in the market today at 37%. Our nearest competitor operates about 21 or 22%. We were the first vendor to market with 400 gig. There is 800 coming soon enough, and 1600 on the roadmap. And I know those sound like crazy numbers, but so goes the march of progress. What I would add to that is that, somewhere in the region of 9 out of 10 of the world's biggest public clouds are built on Arista networks. A lot of the big public cloud companies, the big cloud titans, the likes of which you'll know from the likes of, Facebook and Netflix and those sorts of guys, all build their networks with Arista. But actually, what's far more interesting about those things that I've just said, other than the fact that they're big numbers and big customers and so on and so forth, is that over that sort of 10 or 12 year period, the feature functionality associated with all of that sort of grandiose stuff has become far more relevant and far more attractive to other business industries and other use cases. As time has moved on, the changing nature of data centers, more virtualization, more cloud bursting to public clouds to make use of their environments. Tier 1 storage, in the past, it's had to be managed as a separate network, with fiber channel or iSCSI or whatever it may be, deterministic technologies. And seeing those networks converge with the data center network proper is something that is a very realistic capability now. Other use cases and technologies such as virtual desktop or high performance compute, those platforms rely very, very heavily upon the network that underpins them for that customer or that end user experience. Those are expensive solutions. Those are things that you invest a lot of money in, and they're really only of any use if the user is able to make full use of them, if they're not dropping packets, if the network performance isn't making that VDI session really clunky and making users largely unproductive. Service providers is another area where we've been very successful as a result of this. Service providers, or anybody actually looking to do routing, merchant silicon, I mentioned that a moment ago, the capabilities of that merchant silicon that's coming through in the switching platforms, it's very, very close to the absolute sort of pinnacle of routing capabilities. It's not quite the absolute pinnacle, but it's delivering a huge amount of that capability for a fraction of the cost. So that's another area where it's become, where this capability has become very popular. And e-commerce, we've been very successful working with customers who are either creating or rotating towards some form of digital delivery model for their business. So whether that's supermarkets or whether that's online gaming businesses or online video applications, customers who really need the network for whatever reason to be the provider of their business, the lifeblood, if you like. And tap aggregation, which is another great use case where we've been, we've seen a tremendous amount of success with our customers, where we're able to take mirrors of port traffic and forward it using this highly performant network architecture that we have through security tools, such as network detection and response tools or intrusion protection devices. And I've already mentioned the public and private cloud environments. But it's not just about pure horsepower or pure brute force. It's also about how we pair the hardware and the software together, and the way that we provide proactive telemetry on the state of the network at all times to a database. What that means is that our platforms are able to provide network performance information in real time, like you might experience from the likes of Google Maps or Waze in your car. The way that it would tell you in 5 miles time there's a pothole or a traffic jam, take this route. That is the essence of how our proactive telemetry works as well. It's not all about Ferraris and Lamborghinis and things like that. We have, of course, switches that operate at lower speeds than 100 gig. Of course we do, but actually, things like the proactive telemetry are also ways and means through which we manage to make sure that our networks deliver that high performance. Agility really was that we were born in this, as I mentioned, and our current guy is 10 years old, 12 in total, but we were born in this hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, call it what you like, world. And to become successful, we had to embrace that. We had to provide an end-to-end, almost seamless, slick option for the market in order to be relevant and as an alternative to the incumbent manufacturers. And what that meant was that from the absolute word go, we were very focused at an engineering level within our business on being cloud native or software defined, call it what you like, by design. And that means that when you look at Arista, our API integrations, our automation, if you like, our integrations into third parties are absolutely world-class. So our integrations, we have very many common customers with Ansible, the Linux automation platform, Palo Alto from a security perspective, Forescout, Nutanix from storage service, now Chef, Puppet, NSX, and many others. We deliver automation within our CloudVision platform, but we play very nicely with others that do as well. And quick and easy management, I mentioned CloudVision as well, so that you're able to manage and orchestrate, remediate, or automate. There's a lot of words all there together, but from one place, making it really easy, and quick to adapt and change. And of course, we also host virtual versions of our switching EOS in the public clouds as well, so that you can work with networking in the cloud. You can configure your networking in the cloud in the same way using that virtual environment as you can on premise with Arista. And quality. So I mentioned we have one single binary operating system, Linux-based EOS, and that makes us able to be very, very focused on the quality of that operating system. We still have our founders, and one of them is a guy called Ken Duda. He is ultra focused on the quality of operating system. He would rather apologize to you for bringing a feature to market 6 weeks late, 6 months late, than have to apologize even once for bringing a network down or network performance issues for even 1 minute or 10 seconds. So we're very focused on that. What does that mean? That means in that 10 years that we've been around, and that sort of $2.5 billion of revenue that we do with some of those really big customers as well, it means that we've had 5 critical vulnerabilities. So on the vulnerabilities report that we're happy to provide the resources and the information around that for you. But when we go to the third-party analysts that look at the vulnerabilities, the critical vulnerabilities are the worst. Those are the ones that are monitored by agencies, government agencies. They're that serious. And we've had 5, and they've been updated very quickly over the wire in service. When I compare that to our biggest competitor in the last 10 years, they've had over 200 alone. What that means is that our networks very, very, very rarely go wrong. And when they do, our support kicks in. Our support is equivalent to a level 3 only, and they answer the phone on average within 17 seconds. That's 17. Now, this little eye chart in the bottom right-hand corner, I apologize for that, but actually what we've done here is we've taken an extract from all of our support calls from all of our customers and all of our devices since we've been around, and we've taken 150 switch environment. I think that's pretty big, but stick with me here. As an average kind of, let's say as an average environment across an entire network, 150 switches, what would a customer see as an extract from all of our support logs? General questions. Actually, usually, how do I do this? How do I do that? Less than 1 or 2 per year. Software defects, actually, generally speaking, those are firmware updates that haven't been done, but less than 1 every 2 years. And hardware RMAs, more often than not, perhaps a fan that's gone wrong or a power supply or something, less than 1 per year across a 150 switch environment, which means that an Arista customer would expect to have to interact with us less than 4 times per year on what I consider to be a pretty big environment. So how do all those things come back to total cost of ownership? For me, really, performance is about productivity. It's about realizing the investment in some very, very expensive infrastructure that you provided to the business so that you can get the full benefit from that. Agility, our networks are highly, you can deploy our networks in the traditional way using layer 3 protocols and all those weird and wonderful things as much as you like. And we do it all day long, and we're really good at that. But we are able to be highly programmable and software defined, automated right out of the box. We've been doing it since day one. And that means you can drive out a lot of cost in terms of potential errors in configuring the network. But it also means that the network, an Arista network, is highly agile, highly adaptable to changing business needs. So whatever it is that the business needs you to do, you can say yes. And instead of it taking, I don't know, 6 months, it takes 6 days or 6 hours. It's a materially quicker way of adapting and changing the nature of the network to support the business. And quality and support, meaning that Arista networks very, very, very rarely go wrong. And when they do, you spend a materially smaller amount of time having to remediate and get them running again. And those really are the 4 key tenets of how it is that total cost of ownership associated with Arista and the productivity gains from running an Arista network. But don't take my word for it. You know, the analysts out there, and I know there's always an analyst's report somewhere floating around during these presentations, but don't just take my word for it. And in fact, there's also the Gartner Magic Quadrant, the Data Center Magic Quadrant for Gartner. But actually, here's the Forrester one. And why I really like the Forrester one is because Forrester talks about it says on the slide, open programmable switches for a business-wide SDN. And that's Arista's point of view. We're going to deliver automation and programmability. We don't care where the box sits, and neither should you as a customer, because really you pick the right box with the right features and functions, and then if you want to program, automate, or whatever you want to do, or have a hybrid approach to that, you can. And it's the exact same thing for Arista, whether it's in your data center, your routing, your mirrored tap aggregation devices, or your campus. One thing to learn, and it just works. One thing, we don't care where. As opposed to having those siloed business unit approaches or vendors that only are interested in campus or DC or whatever it may be, we can go end to end across the entire network with one way of doing things, rather than having to learn lots of different versions. That's why I really like the Forrester report. And just a little bit on portfolio. I won't bore you to death too much with this. We sell switches, as you can imagine. Of course we do. We break them down into value and volume. On the right is value. This is where, if you remember, I mentioned routers that aren't routers. These are the switches with those routing capabilities. Over here on the right, the likes of the 7280R series, very popular. Over on the left, what we consider volume, but this is more data center and campus-based switching. And in fact, recently we introduced the new 750X, which is the new campus chassis-based solution as well. The key thing here that I'd like to highlight more than anything is we've got lots of different switches, chassis, big, little, large, small, and all different ports, and 1 gig, 10 gig, and all those sorts of great things, 100 gig. The most important thing here is EOS on everything. It is the same, exact same binary operating system on all of those devices. And of course, we do Wi-Fi. Of course, we do. We have access points like many other vendors, and we've got a variety of different models. And in fact, we've not long launched the C260. Actually, that's a new one that's just come out with twin 5 gig M gig ports in there as well. And we've got external access points, as you can see here, in the O105. We've got the W118, which is quite an interesting device there. That gives us the ability to do what we call a remote AP or a RAP, which gives you that kind of secure tunneling. So this is something someone might use at home, and what it can do is extend the corporate SSID out to their home for them to use as a remote working solution, for example, as one use case. In reality, the big difference with Arista's APs is our security capability. It's that tri-radio piece you can see here highlighted in some of those descriptions. We are our wireless business started out as a software overlay security business for wireless networks back in the back before when, and then they decided to bring in the access points and everything else and merge it all together. But it means that we are very, very strong when it comes to switching on full WIPS, wireless intrusion protection service, out of the box immediately. There's no, oh, hold on, you need to configure it this way, or perhaps do that, or it'll do this. No performance challenges. We're very happy to fire that up straight out of the box. And as a result, what that means is that we tend to work very well with customers who are particularly interested in having very secure wireless networks. And I mentioned the integrations earlier. This information, this is just a screen grab from our public website. This information is publicly available. You can go there and look at this on our website. I mentioned the third-party integrations, the APIs, the automation capability with other vendors. I'm sure there are logos here that you recognize, the likes of Nutanix and NVIDIA, Ansible, Docker, Checkpoint, Forescout, Fortinet, Microsoft, and more. Again, Palo Alto, and I suppose Red Hat and Ansible now are the same, but ServiceNow, SolarWinds, there'll be names there that you're aware of. And actually, this page on our website isn't just logos. You can click on any of them. Again, publicly available. We'll give you a nice little blurb about the vendor. Great. But actually, more importantly, what we'll do is include links and resources to that information. So sometimes there are case studies with customers or reference materials, white papers, configuration guides. We'll attach anything and everything that we've got there, and sometimes links to the other vendor. And in this instance, I've picked Nutanix from a storage perspective. And actually what we've got here is it's a bit of a white paper stroke config guide, actually. Quite an interesting document which goes into detail about how you can deliver network automation for Nutanix enterprise clouds. And we've made some acquisitions along the way, some interesting things, and I'll actually go counterclockwise from Mojo. We acquired Mojo, who were the Wi-Fi vendor when we came into campus about 2 years ago. From a Wi-Fi perspective, we've continued to develop and invest in that. We're bringing on the C260, for example, with the twin 5 gig links in that I mentioned earlier. MetaMako, we brought on board to complement our ultra low latency portfolio for the finance and trading floors. A very pure ultra low latency device, quite niche, but albeit very high performance, high quality product that we wanted to bring into our stable. Big Switch Networks, you may have heard of those guys. They were an operating system and software only networking vendor. And we acquired them. We've got our operating system. I've spoken a lot about that. And so Big Switch operating system continues to be an OEM operating system that Dell will provide to their customers. We really acquired them to get an extra capability around the tap aggregation port mirroring solution that I mentioned earlier on. So we had all of the technology hardware to do that for a long time. But what that gave us was the dashboard for the visibility into those port mirrors. so that we could see what was going on and so on and so forth. So just gave us a nice sort of overlay as a dashboard and so on and so forth into TAP aggregation with what we now call Dan's monitoring fabric, or DMF. The ability to forward mirrored traffic to NDR type tools, the likes of Awake, another acquisition that we made. Awake is a network detection and response platform, very successful in the US. They got stunted a bit by COVID with their growth plans in EMEA and Asia Pacific, but just recently have now, as part of Arista's business, have now grown and expanded into EMEA and into Asia Pacific with the NDR platform and consulting services. There are two key things I would say about Awake that makes it truly unique versus other NDR platforms from our competitors. One is that the adversarial modeling language, or the AML language that our AI and machine learning platform uses, we also enable our customers to use. So you've got the AI and ML platform doing its job, but we also empower our customers of Awake to become threat hunters themselves. That's a particular skill set. If our customers don't have it, we have a managed service version of it. And lastly is Awake Labs consulting services team, who are able to help customers with active breaches. So any customers that are having active breaches of their network, we have security consultants and engineers who are able to come in and help them put a stop to that. And also things like surface attack assessments and things like that. And that's it. Thank you all for listening. Sam, I don't know if we've got any questions.
Yes, thank you for that, Richard. I do have a couple of questions, actually. So somebody's asking, do Arista have both cloud and on-premise based management?
We do, yes. Yep. So we're able to offer on-prem or cloud-based, whether it's end-to-end network architecture with CloudVision or CloudVision Cloud, CloudVision as a service via the cloud, or if it's just for Wi-Fi networks, we do have the Mojo Cognitive Wi-Fi or CloudVision Cognitive Wi-Fi platform as well, which allows us to do primarily cloud-based, but where required, absolutely yes, we can do on-prem with that as well.
Fantastic. Somebody's asking about, are Arista planning to hold any workshops, events, other webinars in the future?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do, and we promote them and market them through the likes of Open Reality. So we'll make sure that you guys get visibility of those. But we do hold our Cloud Builders events, our Campus Builders events, our Innovate events, and they're really designed to share the Arista more around the technologies actually, and just kind of show and tell and help kind of talk about kind of what we're good at and share knowledge and experience and learning really.
I'm guessing all of that information will be available on the Arista website as well.
That's right. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I've got a final question is about, can you tell us about the Arista training program? But that actually leads in quite nicely to a webinar that we're holding next Tuesday at the same time. Do you want to give people a quick overview of what you're going to be covering in that session, Richard?
Yeah, so I mean, let's take that the certification program as an example, right? So yes, absolutely, we do. We have several layers of the ACE program, and we can talk about that next week. But really, those are about kind of transitioning from existing skills that our customers and partners might already have with other manufacturers. So the likes of CCIEs or JNCIAs or HPASCs and ASCs or any number of those sorts of things. So we make them very friendly in terms of how we transition across, and of course we make sure that our customers and partners get all the right kind of training and handover experience around our platforms when they're deploying them.
Fantastic. So you can find out more information and register for that webinar on the Open Reality website. You'll also get a link to that with a copy of the recording probably tomorrow from myself. Richard, thank you very much for your time. We've finished bang on 2:30, so good job on the timekeeping. Thank you everybody for joining us, and we hope to see you at 2 p.m. Tuesday next week.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.